Brendan Carroll, Cornell Ward, Unity 1, win forever. This is the man.
C. Ward saved my butt today, like he does every time I see him. We're back. We're having a great time at this camp. It changed the way we do things. It's a beautiful thing. Unity 1, win forever.
That's right.
Cornell Ward.
All right, let's talk about something that's most different from coach clinics. Most guys don't talk about these things, but they also happen in all of the kids that we recruit. Unity 1 is the largest gang intervention program in the country, and it promotes by saving lives, love, and respect. However, a lot of the youth that we deal with, they're athletes. You know, they want to compete. I know a kid that's going to one of the local high schools. He's been gang banging since he's been 11 years old. But however, a lot of the coaches in here deal with these young babies. The key now is what are you going to say to them that's going to keep them to keep moving forward and not pick up a gun and shoot his own teammate or shoot a cross-rival teammate. A lot of times these things are happening. I mean, just last night we lost a kid that was 17. Last week I lost 7 kids, you know, from different areas. And this is an urban war zone. 12 geographical areas all over Los Angeles. And yet and still we have babies out there that are former athletes. Some of them are very athletic. And this is an opportunity where coaches, not only what Pete was sharing earlier about dealing with the aspect of how important to win, but how do we win out in the streets, because you're going to still deal with these kids every day. You know, the importance of their education, the importance of having a parent, when we know that a lot of them don't have parents. Not one parent, and most of them are in foster care. I think it's 60% of the kids that we're dealing with now in these urban war zones, 60% of them are in foster care. You know, and it's important that we know that we have to speak life into these kids every time we have an opportunity as a coach. Because a lot of times when we have these kids as coaches, some things are said that I can remember when I was a little boy that probably should have never been said by a coach. You know, he can hear it with his eyes wide open. And all I'm saying that the coaches have a great opportunity to speak life into a child, so that when he has an opportunity to come up against these obstacles that he will face, particularly, you know, like Pete said, I mean, he's at SC. However, he got involved in this gang piece because of the surroundings of what was taking place right at SC. If he had 80 players, you can best believe 79 of the players might have had somebody who was affiliated or they knew of that was in some type of gang. We also realize that it's just not a gang problem. It's a drug problem. And this right here affects everyone that is sitting in here. There's not a person in this room that doesn't have anyone that they know, that they care about, that they love, that hasn't been affected about this drug business. And, you know, we talk about all these different type of dysfunctionalisms. Everybody grew up in some type of situation. And I think what happens is a lot of times we don't know how to handle it when we're dealing with our student athletes. I had a kid by the name of Rod McNeil. Probably was the fastest kid in the state. He ran 4.28. They ran the 4x1. They dropped the baton. He still won the race. He didn't do that once. He did it twice. But however, when it was football time, I had to bench him 2 games because he got high. And, you know, it's just like Pete said, sometimes you miss it. And I had to sit this kid down with my staff and said, man, what's going on, man? Why you keep smoking this tall grass? And he said, Coach, it's hard for me not to smoke it when I've been getting high with my mother all the time. See, so a lot of the things that we do just on the field is not enough. Coaches, you have to go far and beyond that. And then we have to keep it confidential. But you as a coach, as a father, a mentor, someone who they look up to, you have to be that ear to hear. You know, just don't always do the talking, but you got to hear them too. Because I always say there's a big difference between hearing and listening. You know, you tell an athlete, go right, and he goes left. And he was listening to you. He didn't hear you. Because the kids always, I think there's a term, they say, I feel you, coach, I feel you. Well, that's what you want them to do, to be able to feel you. Faith comes by the word of hearing, and hearing by the living word of God. Now, we know that in schools they talk about not being able to pray and with your student athletes. There has to be some spiritual guidance that you must give your players. And they have to understand that it's not about the things which they see, but the things which are not seen. Because I know there's several student athletes in here that I had an opportunity to coach that I didn't know as far as they would go, but what we tried to do is instill in them that it wasn't about me. Don't look at the messenger. Hear the message. So it's important what you guys say to these babies, that you plant the right seeds in them so that they can grow up and blossom to be good, productive citizens, whatever they choose to do in life. It doesn't have to be about football. And so I'll be bringing up one of my colleagues who's going to speak to old school principles that we need to encourage to bring back, because a lot of the student athletes that you'll be coaching are going to need some of these principles in order to move forward. I mean, how many coaches, with a show of hands, believe that they may have coached or coached players who come from either urban war zones, single-parent families, dysfunctionalism, these rough neighborhoods? With a show of hands. Wow. Look around. So imagine what kind of help and support you have in order to speak life into a child who they look up to. Because I consider myself as a good kid. I lived in a dysfunctional house, no father. I had 4 other brothers and sisters. As a child, I can remember being molested as a child. You know, and it's okay to be able to speak like this to your student athletes. Because when you give them a part of them, at least they have an opportunity to know that they won't allow it to happen to their children, because it could have already happened to them. It's very, very important. You know, I said no for a long time to the fellas in the neighborhood. Man, I ain't gonna get high. Man, I ain't finna gang bang. But man, was I trying to chase the root to all evil? What was that? The money. You know, I waited until I got a senior. I was a freshman right up the street at Compton Community College. Compton Community College. And I screwed up in school after making first team All-American as a freshman. And I went right back to the hood where you see a lot of your players come from, hanging out on the corners. And the guy drove up and said, "Hey, man, what you doing out here?" Man, I screwed up in school. He said, "Well, come on with me." And took me right away from the dream that I've always wanted. And that was to play football. And I spent 4 hard years out in them streets, slinging that poison to my own people. That's exactly right. I thought it was okay to make $200 or $300 a day. I didn't really realize that I would be making $100,000 a day selling poison in the community. That stuff right there is why we're in the condition that we're in. And it's always tough because, see, it affects not only the one that is doing it, but the ones that are around it. I told these kids just yesterday when we had a meeting, I said, man, that gun didn't kill nobody. It was a person who picked up the gun and killed somebody. First thing they said was, "Coach, well, why is it on every block?" He said, "Coach, why is it in every third house?" So these coaches that are in here are dealing with kids that are in the same area, same community, and can't even walk to the local liquor store without getting shot. Can't go to the park without getting shot. But yet still, as a coach, those players believe in you. Those kids believe in you. And so I'm saying and I'm pleading with you today is that every time you get an opportunity to speak to one of these young babies, This is a different paradigm. This didn't happen 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. This is something new. And we have to come with something new. You have to speak life into a dying situation. And you got to mean what you say and say what you mean. Because the dysfunctional child, I be looking at myself. Did somebody give up on me? I'm talking about the kid that don't have the right attitude. Won't do what you say. You can look at his spirit and you can tell there's something wrong. Probably because he didn't have nothing to eat the night before, or the night before that, or even the night before that. Don't complain about it, be about it. That's a lot of the stuff that I've gotten from these younger people. You have to give them spiritual advice. That's the only thing that I know that can save them from them and save you from you. Because when I talked to Coach about me speaking today, he said, Cornell, just tell them the truth. You know, you got coaches, and I've seen some of the worst coaching in Part 1. Coaches trying to date the mamas. You know, trying to get a brownie point with the kid, trying to pay off this person to get that kid. And we want to call ourselves a coach. That's not good business. Because don't you know what kind of pressure you put on that child? Oh, that's right. You wasn't thinking about the child. Well, again, like I said, we'll get a chance to dialogue throughout the day. I really want to thank all of you gentlemen because it's important at what you do. Just continue to speak life into these babies so that they can grow up to be good human beings and just do all the right things that they need to do. There's no perfect situation. But as I bring up my colleague, Mr. Coach Johnson from Southern California Falcons, he's going to give you some basic information that you're going to need. And I hope that it's a blessing to you. And I want to thank again Brennan and his dad for allowing Unity One to be a big part of what they do. And like I said, we have a gang intervention program, and we are all over the city. And all we try to do is speak life into a dying situation. Thank you.